So Gayle, can I ask on COVID, how do you see us addressing those issues as we look at the impact that it has had on women? Did we take those kinds of issues into account?
No. I think, unfortunately, the pandemic was politicized early on. You know, the first early discussions was whose fault is this? And that's an important issue, but that's not generally your best starting point when you're looking at the beginning of a global pandemic. I think what we know now is that the health impacts are still very, very much in play. The economic impact on women has been extraordinary. More women have lost their jobs. More women have suffered on the healthcare front because attendant healthcare broke down. And women economically were hurt especially hard, including in low and middle income countries where a lot of women are in the informal sector. So there was no relief, there was no support, there was no backup. And I think, you know, maybe if we had had another set of actors in the room when the pandemic was first declared, we could have come out with a different system. And I think one area, had there been more women in the room, for example, I tend to think women are pretty good at process. And managing a global pandemic is a lot of process. How are we going to organize this? How are we going to organize that? Who's going to take this responsibility? Who's going to take that responsibility? And I think that was missing. And of course, the biggest thing is that the world was and remains pretty fragmented.
And when you look at the inequities, when, in particular in Africa, where at the early stages, less than 10% of the population was vaccinated.
It's still low.
Yeah.
It's still low. And I think, look, I am proud of what the United States did, and I think people like you and I were able to do together when I went briefly back into the administration in terms of making vaccines available. But I think people growing up all over the world are going to have as one of their basic facts taught in school that when there was a global pandemic, wealthy countries had vaccination rates and access that was in the range of 70% plus, and poor countries was in the range of 14 to 20%.